Yo everyone, it's Nate. It's been a few days of PTR testing now, so I've had a chance to test all the tanks a fair amount, and a lot of you have been asking me for a tier list, so here it is. Please keep in mind this is very likely to change with how early on this is, so yeah. To nobody's surprise, Vengeance Demon Hunter is still S tier. Nothing has changed in regards to what makes them so strong. If anything, certain aspects of their kit actually got better with the new tier set. Their funnel, tankiness, mob control, it all just adds up to be insane value. If we actually stop to think about the dungeon pool and how Vengeance Demon Hunter will play, it's kind of perfect too. The AoE stops and interrupts in dungeons like Priory, Dawnbreaker, and Halls of Atonement enable you to do so much. And speaking of Halls of Atonement, it's just one of the many dungeons where funnel damage has extremely good value too. And that's not even to mention how tanky they are against all of the magic damage that's coming our way. They are just too good in their current state, and I'm expecting heavy nerfs, but you never know. Moving down to A tier, we have Warrior. With the talent reworks and certain things being buffed and changed, Warrior is looking pretty strong in the new season. The only thing that I think could hold them back is kind of the same thing that always does, the magic damage. They are very tanky regardless, especially after the buffs to Fueled by Violence and our tier set giving Warrior a ton of self-sustain, but we'll have to see how it feels being bolted to death in halls without spell block. You obviously also offer attack power, which is one of the better raid buffs behind Chaos Brand and Mark of the Wild, so there is that. Next up in A tier is Brewmaster. So far on PTR, they've actually felt very tanky, with extremely high uptime on Wisdom of them All from our new tier set to some reworked talents. If you actually play this spec well, it's pretty rewarding in my opinion. The new talent rework was nice, although it is still 6 points to use Nazal properly, and I'm still not sure that's worth it. There were some funny bugs associated with the CDR for a day, where you could just create an army of Oxes and spam knockup mob every other global, but that's been fixed now. The problem is that if Ox isn't good, then you're back to missing an element of mod control that tanks like Warrior and Demon Hunter have, which makes a lot of these pulls so much easier. But that's not to say it's needed, of course. You do have Mystic Touch, which is nice for physical comps, but if physical DPS don't end up being good, then it's not much of a raid buff. The DPS you do is also extremely high on both AoE and single targets, so we do have that going for us too. Moving down to B tier, we have Bear and Paladin. I almost wanted to create an additional tier and put Bear on its own, since I do think I did it a little injustice putting it beside Paladin in this tier, but I'll explain more why they're side by side later. Bear is very tanky, similarly to Warrior and Vengeance Demon Hunter honestly, but nothing has changed in regards to what's dragging it down. The damage is horrendously bad. On AoE you deal competitive damage inside of Incarn, but on single target it's actually laughable. Combine that with the lack of meaningful mob control for the new season dungeons, and it really does put a downer on things for the spec. First, the spell will see some use, and Mark of the Wild is as powerful as always, but it's not enough in my opinion. You'll still be able to do very well on the spec, but simply due to what I outlined previously and the dungeon pool, I really doubt it will be meta. Paladin is next in B tier, and I honestly think it's quite a bit weaker than the rest of the tanks already on the list. The only reason it's not in C tier is because of the mob control and utility it brings. Its tankiness and self-sustain is in absolute shambles. I was having Word of Glory crits heal me for 4 million while I have over 20 million HP. It just feels terrible. The damage is definitely there though. With new exponential scaling that Blightsmith tier set has, it was definitely fun to pull big and see the numbers rise. And even on single target, the 4-piece was doing crazy work. I just wish it was a bit tankier. The dungeon pull is actually going to be really good for Paladin too, with a ton of required interrupts, group damage, poisons, and more. It makes the prospect of this spec being buffed definitely giving it the possibility of being meta again. Blood DK is looking quite sad down here in C tier to be honest, but don't worry, at least we have Grip as our raid buff. Jokes aside, the tier set is actually really nice for Deathbringer, giving us one of our strongest defensives. It's just a shame we've already caught a handful of nerfs. You also don't really provide a ton to your group. You have no raid buff, no hard CC. AMZ is your only group utility. It does feel like Blood is just lacking. But that's not to say you can't still do some very high keys on the spec. I just feel like Blood has to be quite strong numerically, while the other tanks have to be kind of poor in order to actually be meta in keys. The spec definitely needs some love, and I hope it gets it before things go live. So this is it for now on what I think the state of the tanks are so far. I'll keep you updated as PTR goes on, and don't forget to catch me when I'm live over on my Twitch, link in the description. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.